coffee in the back.
NFL Inside Blitz Conference Finals, right, guys?
Yeah, it's about time. This is 2023, right?
It is. And it's just good to be here. I'm looking to make sure that we are actually live, but
It says live.
You are live.
No tweet came across, but I got a pet peeve with Twitter I want to talk about. But
it doesn't say alive, but it says live. So we'll take
there
it.
we go. All right. So anyway, if you haven't seen me in a week, I've been in bed since Sunday morning. I feel like I don't feel well, guys. And
but you look good, and that's all
I'm
that matters.
railing. I'm happy to be with you guys, and there'll be no pity party here. I'm excited about the games. We got lots to talk about. Before we get into the games, though, let's since people join us a little bit, they kind of filter in. Let's start with the other topics you guys wanted to talk about, and let me go straight to Ron's slides here. Both of you guys wanted to talk about the coaching hires.
Yeah.
So run with it. Run with it.
Well, Frank Reich to Carolina makes a lot of sense unless you're the interim coach who didn't get the job. A place where he started as their first quarterback through their first touchdown pass. He's done a really good job. He's been in some strange situations. I don't know what Carolina looks like for the next year or so. I think they're going to need a really good draft and some good free agent signings, and I'm not so sure that a lot of guys want to go there right now. But they turned it around nicely, and I know Ron and I both had some thoughts on the interim who didn't get the job and said all along he probably wouldn't and really wouldn't be seriously considered, right, Ron?
No, I mean, he did a nice job with them. He kept the defense steady, and that is a better than average defense considering that their offense wasn't much, especially in the passing game. The issue I have with defensive coaches being head coaches now is it's such an offensive league, and so he was fighting an uphill battle.
Yep.
What happened? They had 9 coaching interviews, 9 different people. 7 of them were from the offensive side of the ball. And there was Wilkes, the interim, and one other guy. Frank Reich, to me, Chris and Ted, he's the father figure that maybe the Carolina Panthers need. Somebody with an established record with quarterbacks, an established record with coaching. He's been in the business. I think that's what Carolina needs moving forward. Is he the greatest hire of all time? Probably not, but it's not a bad move.
Yeah, and it's disappointing that the racial stuff has come into play here, and I expected it to happen. And there might be some to it, and there might not be. Again, we talked about it before. Steve Wilkes is a fine defensive coach, and he's done a great job as an interim and as a regular head coach. He's about 10 games under 500, so that's not a good thing. And he's been in circumstantial stuff too, been when he was with Arizona, they weren't very good. So it didn't matter. It's the old story. If you take a job because you want a job, but it's not the right job, you're stuck for a while because it's on your resume forever.
Good point.
I think it's a great hire for Carolina. I think it's a great fit. Personally, I think ownership got in the way with Frank a little bit in Indianapolis, and I think he's got enough to work with, a decent foundation to work with. I think Carolina should be happy with who's available out there, who they're going to get that's better.
Yeah, I agree, and it's just a good fit. Whether he's Vince Lombardi is a whole different story, of course, but it's all about fit and chemistry and how he's going to make this team move forward. But again, they need players, and so we'll see what they do during the offseason.
Okay, listen, I can't be the only one who wonders this. Who's D'Amico Ryans?
D'Amico Ryans.
Come on.
I don't know who he is.
He's the defensive coordinator of the decade right now with San Francisco.
Okay.
He's got everything going for him. He is a really well-liked person. He is bright. He is charismatic. I think he's going to make a hell of a head coach. He's got one negative. He's a defensive guy. Outside of that, I'd hire him in 10 seconds.
With Dan Quinn out of the picture, presumably going back to Dallas, D'Amico Ryans may be the only defensive coaching hire of this cycle.
That's true.
And what you want to do, I mean, if he ends up where I think he might end up, which is Denver, they already have a decent defense. So that's fine. He's going to learn on the job offensively. You have to go out and steal somebody's offensive coordinator. Maybe it's Eric Bieniemy, who's rumored to not come back to Kansas City, even if he doesn't get a head coaching job. But get somebody who's creative on the offensive side of the ball, because I agree with you, Ted. D'Amico Ryans has a bright future.
Yeah, he is really a standout guy. In so many ways, I just love everything about the guy, and I think he's got a hell of a chance to be a really damn good head coach.
Well, I'd rather ask a stupid question than not.
That's okay. We'll
No
give
problem.
you stupid
Sean
answers.
Payton.
And if you think
Sean
50%
Payton,
of
I
the
don't
people
think
watching
he's
know who
going.
the guy was, then
Okay.
no way.
Whatever.
Well, we'll give you one that you know, Sean Payton. I'm not sure there's a right landing spot for him this cycle. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I think next season is perfect. And if it fits into what I think might happen, if the Chargers fail again, he's your coach if the owner wants to pay the money. If the Rams situation changes, look, Sean Payton lives in LA now. He has family. He has kids here. So this is a perfect fit for him in so many ways. All he has to do is, instead of driving to the television station, drive to the training site. So, that I think that works just great. Of course, there's always possibility of Dallas. We hear that it's ridiculous that Jerry Jones has come out and said that Mike McCarthy's, he wants him as long as Tom Landry coached there, which is, I think McCarthy would be 130 by the time he was there as long as Tom Landry. But I don't think there are any great fits right now for Sean Payton. And which team are you saying, as soon as Payton shows up, they're a contender? I don't think any of them.
No.
I think he's smart to sit this year out. Stick his toe in the water, get some experience with the interview process. He discussed it on Colin a few times. He went into some nice detail because there's a lot of give and take, and there's a lot of questions he needs to ask, and there has to be some clear understandings. And that Denver situation is just a mess. I mean, they have no draft capital, and you don't know what you have with Wilson. And I'm not sure and now that the Chargers aren't replacing their coach, what is the best job?
Yeah,
what do you
maybe
guys
New Orleans, but he left that job.
I think New Orleans, he said. I think the best job is offensive coordinator of the Chargers. That's what I'd like to have.
The best job out there, in my opinion, would be Houston because of all the draft capital they're going to get, and they can build that young team on a salary cap. That's what we've been talking about with Cincinnati having all those players under the salary cap and Buffalo not, and Buffalo's GM saying, well, look, they got all their young players, all their young stars and their rookie contracts. And I think the same is true in Houston if they do a better job drafting. The job I don't like is Arizona's because they axed a GM that I really like. Murray's not going to be ready at the start of the year. Murray needs to get all invested to begin with. There's too many holes. You're going to need somebody special to run the show in Arizona.
Yeah, and I'm worried about D'Amico Ryans' situation. If he goes to a Denver or an Arizona, it's the same thing like I mentioned with Steve Wilkes when he went to Arizona. He's not going to be able to turn that around. And if he does, he's a genius. Mm-hmm. So do you really want that job? You're not going to want to turn down the money, but is that a good job for your career? That's a big question mark.
I did forget. Peyton did seem genuinely interested and connected to Houston. New Orleans and Houston used to do a lot of partnership type stuff, and he's familiar with the organization. They've got a ton of draft picks. The well is not empty there. So yeah, that's probably not bad. But I wouldn't want to go to Arizona or Indy. You couldn't pay me to. I mean, why would you even want to, jeopardize your career going to those places? You'll end up like the guy from Denver that's now the offensive coach or offensive coach at the Jets.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think we need to talk about that too. If that's only about getting Aaron Rodgers, that is a really stupid hire, in my opinion. I mean, let's put it this way. If this guy has a great history of calling plays, that's one thing. He has almost no history of calling plays. A little bit in Jacksonville some years back, and that's it. Where the hell has he called plays? Where is he an OC? He's like a quarterbacks guy. He's not an offensive coordinator. So if he brings in Aaron Rodgers, congratulations. It's the return of Brett Favre to the Jets. Remember that when the Packers he wanted to go to Minnesota, and they said, no, you're not going to our division. And they traded him to the Jets, and he was there for a year. And it's going to be a similar kind of situation. Aaron's got something left, but who the hell does he have to throw to with the Jets? Think about that. He'd be leaving Green Bay with at least guys that he's familiar with, and they've got some potential quality future. I mean, who's on the Jets receiving core that's exciting?
They've got a couple.
Actually, the Jets are good.
They're good, but they're not that good. Oh, they're not that good. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, I like all three of them.
I don't agree.
No,
I think they're good. Yeah, they're good, but they're not better than the Packers guys if those kids become as good as they can be. But
they are.
I don't know. First disagreement on the show, Ted.
They're
definitely better.
Ron, would you take the Jets receivers or would you take Green Bay's receivers?
The Jets easily, not even close.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would say the same thing next year. We'll see what happens after next year if Aaron Rodgers stays with the Packers.
Sorry,
I study these guys. I study these guys. It's not that the Packers guys won't grow into a fine unit. It's that the Jets have 3 solid wide receivers right now.
Okay. And I think we as we talked about off the air, Ron, if the Packers get, let's say, the Notre Dame tight end, right, in the draft.
Mike Meyer, yeah.
Yeah. If they get him, then that's going to change their situation because they don't have any tight ends to really throw to. Their tight ends are blockers.
Tanyan is used in the red zone, but Meyer would be used all over the field.
Exactly. But they don't have – Tanyan is not a guy that he relies on, only in the red zone.
You want something? I'd rather have the Jets get Meyer in the first round because the Jets are looking for offensive line and tight end help because they have the running backs and the wide receivers.
When do they draft?
Middle of the pack.
Okay.
Quote
so
unquote
they have a shot
pack.
at.
So how many of these 5 quarterbacks are you guys buying?
Yeah, see, that's the big move. How many am I buying? 2.
I'm buying 2. Ted?
Yeah, 2.
Next topic. We all know who they are.
Exactly. Well, you know what? And Ron and I happened to mention this the other day. We talked about Matt Ryan. Unless Matt Ryan really wants to play so badly, shouldn't he just hang him up? It's over. Okay. And when it comes to Carson Wentz, shouldn't he just hang him up? Because I don't think anybody wants him anymore. I mean, he's not a locker room guy. He's not a career backup because I don't think he would ever settle for that. So that's a tough situation. And Zach Wilson's already showing that he's probably a USFL guy. So, the other two love to have him.
I think Wentz and Ryan are literally embarrassing themselves at this point. I can't see, the best they are emergency third-string quarterbacks in my eyes.
2 of these guys have played for Indy the last 2 years, Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. And the issue is I don't like this rent a quarterback every year and try to salvage him and so on. Indianapolis, for example, has other holes besides quarterback. And if you keep renting quarterbacks, your long-term growth, the whole argument is get a good rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. Now, I applaud the Jets for trying with Zach Wilson, but his college career was a little bit spotty. We talked about his senior year was filled with fill-in opponents because of COVID, they weren't allowed to play divisional opponents with BYU. So we knew that there was a boom-bust component. The problem is, Chris and Ted, is that this year's quarterback crop, according to me, is less desirable than people think. And so building from maybe more than 2 guys in this draft, not the 4 guys that are scheduled to go in the first round, I think is a problem.
Did you say you liked only a couple of guys in the first round this year?
Yeah, right now the Florida quarterback, Anthony Richardson, is completely off my radar list. Of course, I'm going to look at film with him and so on. He's not even close to being ready to be an NFL quarterback. And Will Levis of Kentucky, I have to study him more because Kentucky's offense wasn't exactly a world-beating offense to begin with. And if you blame your offensive line or you blame your college scheme for NFL woes, you become Christian Hackenberg times 3.
Yeah. Well, can't New Orleans just solve the Dalton or Winston decision by taking Derek Carr?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. They should, really. I think he's perfect for them.
Wouldn't that be a nice move?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the problem I have is they need a better offensive coordinator. That's the example, both Tampa and New Orleans, where you had a defensive guy in an offensive-minded league. There's no reason that New Orleans should have fallen off the map in 2022, but they did.
Well, they were decimated with injuries the whole season. But, Peyton to New Orleans, Carr to New Orleans, wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
Well, at least they don't have to. Go ahead.
No, if Peyton was in New Orleans in 2022, they would have won the division. There's no question about that.
Yeah, it makes no sense for him to go back there now. I mean, if he wasn't back there before, no, he's not going back. But that would be a nice pickup. I'd love to see that move for Derek Carr there. And as far as Lamar Jackson goes, he's perfect trade bait right now. They could do something, I think, to just unload the situation if they're not going to pay him. And he's being ridiculous on his request to try and get paid something where he's no guaranteed to even be in the lineup enough games to make it worth your while for the long haul. It's a stupid deal if you're an owner and say, I'm not just giving this money out unless you got so much money you don't care.
I feel so bad for everybody involved because it's a good organization. You want to like them.
It's a great organization.
And he's a great guy. You want to like him.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just a bad set of circumstances. It just
you
really
can't be your own agent. This isn't 1958. Okay.
Well,
you can't do it.
Mom's handling it.
Whatever. It's the same. You can't do it. It's stupid. Okay. He's cost himself mega millions of dollars for being unrealistic.
I wish Tom Brady would retire. How about you guys?
I don't really care. I'm sick of the story.
The question is there a fit for Tom Brady?
Yeah, maybe Vegas. He's got all the weapons there, and he was this close to being there originally instead of Tampa. If it wasn't
you're putting him in a division with all those quarterbacks, the
whatever.
AFC, switching him to the AFC. I mean,
he's the greatest of all time. It shouldn't matter where he goes.
Yeah.
You shouldn't worry about a division. It's like, look, if you got weapons and you got a team that is going to score points, their defense sucks, but maybe it'll be improved next year. Who knows?
It's a tough fit. Ryan Tannehill thoughts. Is he still with Tennessee? Because if he's not, Tennessee's got a big problem at quarterback.
Yep.
Well, that's a landing spot for Carr, obviously. That would really help them.
Well, originally it was also thought of as a possible landing spot for Rodgers.
Right.
And I think I read somewhere that Aaron bought a place there. I could be wrong.
In Nashville?
I think.
Text him now and see what he says.
I believe he might have 33 houses though too, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Well, anyway. He'd be going to a place that has a better offensive line than some of the teams that we've discussed. So that part is not bad.
Right.
I personally think that Lamar stays in Baltimore one more year and Rodgers stays in Green Bay one more year. But
I do too.
It's a lot of off-season talk. We'll throw it out and then maybe we won't have to revisit it.
Yeah, and by the way, I might see Aaron next weekend at Pebble Beach. I'm assuming he's playing, and if he does, I'll try and run into him and at least get a couple of questions. He's not going to tell me about his future because he's not going to tell anybody. But whatever,
Yeah.
I can try.
Well, we've got two big games here, and
Really?
Ron's on the ball here. He presented slides for us. So
Wow, look at that.
Let's take a look at the Cincinnati angle. Go ahead, take it away, Ron.
Okay, well, when you only have 2 games to handicap, it makes it a lot easier to kind of look at these teams. And all 4 teams are deserving right now. There's little to separate them. But when I look at what Cincinnati needs to do, we've seen Travis Kelce run wild the last 2 weeks. I mean, anywhere and everywhere. You've got to start putting bodies on him because Burrow, Ted and I talked about this. We've talked about this. He has to throw fast because everybody knows his offensive line can only protect for so long. They're doing the best they can. They are a little bit better than last year, but Burrow's conditioned to throw really quickly. So you get it to your target, you get it and so on that way. For Burrow, but for Kelce's side, for the Kansas City side, Mahomes is going to face the same thing now because Mahomes is possibly going to be limited in the pocket. So what you want to do from Cincinnati's point of view is take away Kelce and make Mahomes have to go through longer routes in order to get the ball out to him.
Yeah, I say whatever it takes to take Mahomes slightly out of his game is what you want to do in this game because, he's running around. They're showing the video. Everything's great. It's like, hey, there's no football game going on here. Okay. When a game starts, good luck, baby. You got a high ankle sprain. You got to get through the entire game. It only takes one misstep or one little somebody falls sideways against you or whatever. So, there's just such little guarantee that anything's going to happen here that Patrick's going to get through the whole game as healthy as he looks in one day of a little bit of practice. And I think that could be really, really deceiving.
What do you guys think about? We had 3 linemen in last week, and Cincinnati looked as good as anything. But my contention on that situation is I think they caught a break because of the weather conditions. I think that they are able to make that first move and get steadied, and they have a little bit of an advantage against the defense. And it was kind of worked in their favor last game. And I don't think things are going to be quite the same this game. How many of those guys are going to be in this game? What is the health status of that line?
Not very good. It's not very good. But Chris, answer this. Where do you have Kansas City's metrics defensively? Put you to work.
Keep talking.
And while I put you to work, that second statement that I wrote, go unconventional with the play calling.
It's gone now.
Very important in terms of keeping Kansas City's defense off balance because it's not a great defense.
No, I have them at 18th for the season.
That's where I would have them, 17th.
Yeah.
Okay. We lost the banner there, by the way. The big there you go.
There it is.
The big screen. Yeah, you talked about Cincinnati last week. Do you know that Cincinnati is 10-0 this year when they score first?
No, nope, don't know that. And I know Bertie has something that the Bengals are 23-2 ATS the last 25. I'm not aware of that. I'd have to look at my numbers here.
Well, look, we mentioned it before.
There's a lot of W's.
we mentioned it before last week's games, okay? If Cincinnati wins this game and wins it impressively, this is a team that is Super Bowl bound. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. Because
I think in this game they're probably going.
No. I'm talking about last week.
Okay.
Not this week. If the way they won at Buffalo, the way they made everything on the Buffalo offense do exactly what they wanted to. It's like, you know what? You guys aren't showing a run game. Okay, you want to run the ball? Let your quarterback run all day long. You're not going to beat us. And they didn't.
Buffalo's performance, we haven't even discussed it. That was one of the worst performances I can remember. I mean, all aspects. I mean, it was just the game plan, the coaching, the adjustments. That was unbelievable.
What adjustments?
Yeah, exactly. It just unbelievable. They came out like the Walking Dead and never changed.
But a lot of credit's got to go to Cincinnati's D.
It does.
Okay. So it's not just Buffalo screwed up, but look, Josh Allen is showing once again that he's starting to regress and go back into the pre-Brian Daboll days and be a turnover machine. And that it's never going to win you anything that way. So they better start figuring things out over there. They got a head coach who's a defensive guy, and he's not going to make offensive adjustments. So that's just, welcome to the world, baby.
Yeah.
Well, I think we know that it's important for Kansas City to get out to a lead in this game. The Bengals have showed that they really bottle things up in that second half. So you've got to get out in front. So I think that's one of the keys.
Kansas City has had a fourth quarter lead in each of the 3 games they played with Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and of course, last year at this time, it was 21-3 and Mahomes was at the 5-yard line or so, threw about a 3-yard pass, and it stayed 21-3 at the half. And we know the Bengals came back. I believe that game went to overtime. So here's Kansas City's, and basically Mahomes can make any throw. And that's not going to change whether he plants off his left foot, right foot, whatever. I mean, he thinks on the spot. He thinks on the run. He's just I think his ability to run with the ball is going to be hampered, nor will he want to run with the ball. But his ability to see the whole field is still going to be there. And what he just got to play a cat and mouse game with Cincinnati, thinking that he's limited in some areas, and all of a sudden you come out with something a little bit deeper than what they expect, maybe to one of the secondary wide receivers.
Yeah. What about blitzing in this game as far as the Bengals D is concerned?
That was on the Cincinnati game keys. Do not blitz. You're not that great at rushing the quarterback. If you blitz and don't get there, Mahomes is going to kill you. So I don't like that particular avenue for them. What I'd rather see Kansas City is offensively control the ball, bait them, do some different things. Don't let Burrow get in rhythm because he is a tremendously high percentage quarterback and he throws quickly. So he throws on rhythm. And then he's had all these fourth quarter comebacks that we're not talking enough about.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, how do you consider where do you rank the Kansas City blitzing game?
Kansas City is decent blitzing, but they can get home with their 2 defensive ends. I do have a typo in the second thing. It should say Hurst, Hurst, the tight end Hurts,
okay.
As opposed to the quarterback of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that?
But I mean, look at these weapons, and I personally think Higgins is going to have a big game. I mentioned this last week. You and I, we talked about T. Higgins and the emotional baggage that he had to wrestle with going to play Buffalo twice in a 3-week span. I think T. Higgins has the potential to be unguardable in this game. That's just a personal opinion. It's not necessarily based on, he's going to go 10 for 112 yards. But T. Higgins is a legit number 1, just like Chase is a legit number 1. I think he's somebody you want to watch in this game.
Okay, and just one quick little thought to finish up the Kansas City potentially blitzing on Burrow. Joey B is ranked 3rd in the league in pass TDs and yards per attempt against the blitz. A little thought right there.
Yeah, he's so accurate. He's going to find somebody who's open. So you don't want to
be careful.
Commit an extra guy. 4 or 5 or 6 rushers. You want to get home with Frank Clark and everybody else, which is possible because the Cincinnati offense, everybody knows that if Burrow has to stay longer in the pocket, Frank Clark has a winnable matchup.
Yep.
So you're Andy Reid. You call heads. It's a heads. Do you take the ball or do you give it to Cincinnati?
I take the ball because Cincinnati's 10-0 when scoring first. I want to at least get a shot at it.
I would have to check to see what the field conditions are. And
Yeah, that's
like
obvious. Wind and all that too. Who knows?
Yeah, but otherwise, I wouldn't deviate from whatever he's doing. If he wins the toss and he's been doing it, there's no need to change right now.
So, Theodore.
Yes, sir.
What's your pick on the game? The spread is going to be 3. You can get 2.5 or 3. Or no, wrong game. It's 1.5, and we're up to 48.
Didn't I see 2? Did I see in 2 last night or this morning?
There's a 2. There's a couple 2s. It's going to get up.
What do you think it's going to? Do you think it's going to end around 2?
I think it closes 2.5 strong.
Really?
Week 3.
Well, that's what Ron and I talked about off the air yesterday.
Yeah.
Where it might end.
I think it just keeps climbing unless there's anything negative about Mahomes.
Yeah, no, it's all about Mahomes. If they think he's healthy, then you're going to see a solid 2.5, if not whatever. You can't see it going to 3, though, right?
Yeah, I can.
It would have been
really
3.5 if Mahomes never had gotten hurt, because Cincinnati, as Birdie said, as a couple of other people have said, they've been disrespected in the odds for a little bit of time. They should never have been 6 against a Buffalo team with warning signs, and they shouldn't be 3.5, but they would have been 3.5 against.
Chris is still pissed at the Buffalo game.
Just answer the question: who are you taking in this game?
I'm taking Cincinnati.
Ted's on Cincinnati. You like the over or the under, Ted?
What's the number?
48.
I like the over.
Ron?
Yeah, see, you're not going to like me this week, but these are unbettable games. They're literally all even in terms of power ratings. It's a great
you gotta let Chris pout a little bit first.
Yeah, he's got to give his little banner or whatever. I would lean to the under. I would lean to the under.
I want to see if is there supposed to be any wind. I haven't looked, so I don't know.
How can there be no value in this game when you could have bet at 2.5 one way? You could have bet it at pick. I
didn't say I didn't bet it at 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't say what I did or didn't do. It's what the line is now. Anytime you could get 3 in a game like this, that's got to be the lean, because it's a toss-up game. And there's no way Cincinnati should have ever been 2.5. And that's why a couple of services came in and didn't wait for 3, because 3 was never going to happen.
Yeah,
I thought that line was insanity.
It was.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you? I didn't hear your
City
comment.
Chiefs said pick 'em and +1, and I saw the 2.5 on Kansas City, and I literally was so sick I couldn't even get out of bed to bet it. I just was flabbergasted, and I watched it flutter away. And, but for whatever reason, I don't think it's going to be a 1 or a 2 point game anyway. But I did get a teaser in with Kansas City at 7.5. And I do have a straight bet in with Kansas City. The total, I have no opinion, but I think Kansas City takes care of business here.
How long was it? Cincinnati 2.5.
Long enough to bet it.
Was it like just one day, or was it more than that?
Less than 24 hours, but
it was okay.
It crossed 2 days, like the evening and the evening and the morning.
And like the next morning was still there, kind of a thing.
It was still there till roughly about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Was that after the news on Mahomes, and then it totally changed?
No, it was after services played it.
After what?
After a couple betting services.
Okay.
Bet it out. I was live on a show at the time it was done. I thought it was me that moved the line, but I guess it wasn't.
San Francisco at Philadelphia seems like a very interesting game.
I love this matchup.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the keys here, let you guys have at it, but you can't. I still insist you can run on Philly, and San Francisco has the team to do it. Do not deviate from that. Go after them in the run game. Then I talked about the defensive game plan. You've got a lot of weapons on the outside. You've got Sanders and so on. But what you want to do is concentrate on Jalen Hurts. Don't let him escape. He runs the ball 10.5 times per game. Don't let him do that in this particular game. Design your defense to stop that. And then Shanahan, I know how good you are in the scripted first 15 to 20 plays. I know what adjustments you've made in the third quarter. I don't like what you've done historically in the fourth quarter. Don't overthink the fourth quarter if it's going to be a close game. Basically, those are my keys.
Yeah, well, it's all. I think this game is really all about the run game from both sides. We don't know Elijah Mitchell has been hearing about his injury all week, and McCaffrey's going to play, but we don't know how healthy he is. Knowing him, it probably doesn't matter because he's such a tough guy. He's going to figure it out, whatever works. But Philly just absolutely just crushed the Giants on the ground, and Lane Johnson is turning out to be a Hall of Famer for sure. What he's doing to that team, with him in the lineup, they're like a fantastic team. Without him in the lineup, they're just pretty good, and that's the difference he makes.
What do you think?
I'm waiting for you to go through your the keys for Philly.
Okay, keys for Philly. We know that Philly they have 75 sacks now if you count the playoff game. So it's incredible. And everybody's tried to rush Purdy, but they haven't been successful. So it's not just making him uncomfortable in the pass rush. It's making him uncomfortable so that he has to go off that first read. Don't make it so easy for him, even though he's got all these weapons. And because he has all these weapons, what I would say is that you're not going to be able to defend them all. So pick your poison. Don't let Kittle get down the seam, and don't let Debo go on one of these 8-yard slant patterns that runs for 40 yards. Pick your poison. Let them have 5, 6, 7 yards, but don't let them get these big plays. And Philly in the past, not as much this year, but in previous years, they have allowed a lot of big, long gainers. And that's what they have to deviate away from. And then for all the pass catching options that they have, I said that Jennings is going to be a pass catching option for San Francisco. So it's in the wrong slide there. But for Philly, it's the same kind of thing. What you want to do is exploit San Francisco's secondary, get away from Bosa, get away from everybody else, and find matchups that will get one of their other guys, one of their cornerbacks, one-on-one on somebody, because you can win on San Francisco's cornerbacks.
Yeah, well, again, San Francisco's deep game has not really been a major factor for them. There's been like a couple of plays every game where somebody's been open, but for the most part, they're just trying to play it smart, and not trying to get it all, excuse me, at one shot. So no doubt, just pressure Brock Purdy, whatever it takes. Make him work. Make him earn it this time. And he's going to get rid of the ball quickly, and he's done an unbelievable job. That guy, to be able to do what he's doing at this stage of his career with no turnovers is insanely good. I mean, I don't care who you are. To be able to do what he's doing with this winning streak is just amazing. So you have got to get in his face and make him think. And if you can rattle him, you might have a whole different outlook.
Both of these teams, GM Roseman and Lynch for San Francisco, these teams have been incredibly carefully and well built. Yep. It's just amazing the weapons that Purdy has to make his job easier. He's got the tight end. He's got the offensive line. He's the young quarterback that has these toys that other quarterbacks do not have. And then what Roseman did to elevate that roster is incredible as well. So these teams are here for a reason, because it's GM, coach, players.
Yeah, and I like what they're doing with we talked about this early in the season, and Brandon Ayuk is a guy that everybody just said he's sort of a guy. I loved him coming out of college, and he's really turning out to be a good one. He's a 2A in my mind, big time in this league.
And he got some hard coaching early. He was benched in preseason and the first couple of weeks.
Yeah,
he couldn't find the field. And when his attitude changed and when he understood his role in the offense, all of a sudden he was open for these 15, 20-yard passes.
Yeah, no, he's become an outstanding receiver on this team. And I mean, really, and a huge target as well. Like in the clutch, they're looking for him a lot now.
All right, Chris, have at this game.
This is the na game. We've listened to pundits for the last 4 or 5 weeks say the same old thing about Purdy. He's going to fold. He can't continue this. Blah, blah, blah. And you just know that if he folds, the next week you're going to hear them just kind of laughing of, he had to be an idiot. Not realize that. Well, you're 5 games in. We've heard the same song and dance of how he's going to fold like a paper napkin for 5 weeks. And if he does fold like a paper napkin and Monday they're like, well, we knew that was going to happen. Just remember who the hell told you that for 5 weeks in a row and lost those 5 games previously. It's just ridiculous because I see these people week after week and they don't even change their song and dance. They don't even change the tune. It's the same repetitive garbage. And
so what do you have to say about it? Forget those people.
Who's got more experience in the playoffs between Purdy and Hurts? Who?
It's even.
It's even. They both have 2 playoff games of experience. Who did Philadelphia play all season? They gave up 38 points to the Lions. They gave up, or they played down. They beat Dallas with Cooper Rush.
That's perfect, Cooper Rush. By the way,
I'm looking for a signature win here. They gave up 33 points to the Packers, who was at that mid-season was complete garbaggio beans. They played the Titans when they were down. That debacle of a game that they beat Dallas in. I mean, they beat the Giants last week. I mean, seriously, where is a signature win on this entire schedule? Now, I just last week, I think I mentioned that I think strength of schedule is getting overrated. But for gosh sakes, this team is not battle-tested.
Well, strength of schedule is not overrated after the fact. Maybe before the fact. Because after the fact, it's easy to judge it, and you can look. You're doing it right now.
I am.
And you should.
I should, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they played nobody, and
I know
they're completely overrated. I greatly respect the Eagles. I think they're a great team.
Yeah, I could tell.
But they are not battle tested, and the fact that they chewed up and spit out the Giants last week, who cares? I mean, seriously.
I tend to agree with you on that.
San Francisco had to open up on the road in the snow-filled season. They had to play Geno Smith 3 times. They lost at Denver before anybody realized Denver was no good, and Denver still actually had confidence. They played Stafford twice when he was healthy. They played. Can
I turn that around I tweak that just a little bit and just bring up the Giants, okay? Because remember, a lot of folks on this show, they're starting to get on the Danny Dimes bandwagon there, and they say, well, they're starting to look good. And I said all along, wait till he faces Philadelphia. He's back to Danny Pesos again. And he was, okay? So, and that's, credit Philadelphia with that. Because the Giants were playing well and they're on a roll and their momentum and the confidence, and they got their asses kicked. They weren't even in the same league with them. Okay. No. So credit Philly with that.
I do give them a little bit of credit, but it's still not a marquee win.
Well, if Purdy looks bad this week, so be it. Like Daniel Jones looked bad and so on. It's just one of those things. I don't want to hear the "I told you so." It's just that maybe Philly is that good. Yeah, we don't want to hear that. There's a lot of good comments that are being made by Russell and Birdie and so on, and Julian. It's really about San Francisco running the ball here. That's their strength. They scheme it very well. Washington kept Philadelphia off balance with that 200+ yard running game. And I honestly think San Francisco has to go in with that same mindset.
I
because
agree.
San Francisco does not want to see a whole bunch of Jalen Hurts passing the ball against their own secondary.
Yeah, but aren't you concerned if McCaffrey is 75% and Elijah Mitchell is less? That's
No.
going to all of us. You're not concerned at all?
Well, they have Kittle. They have.
Well, we're talking about the run game, though. You're saying the run game is important. So if those guys can't be themselves, that doesn't concern you?
They'll use Debo in the run game. They'll do a lot of different things that way. As long as they don't use Purdy, because I've been going against him in running numbers every week.
What happens? Like 8 or something? Or
that's the one. We could sit and talk about props and how the value is gone because props get moved early nowadays. But the Purdy one opened 8.5 and it's now 10.5.
Wow, I guessed it right on the button.
Under 10.5 is even money.
Okay, so there's value there, do you, or what?
To me, I set it at 5.5.
Oh, so you already did it then.
Yeah. The Debo rushing over, it's interesting, Russell. He was over the number last week, and then he had one more carry, and he went -4 yards, and then he went under the number. It was a very interesting situation. He was over the number, and then he had one more carry. It lost 4 yards, and then he went under the number.
Was that an end around play or no?
Yeah, one of those things, where they do those. What did Oregon State used to call them? The sweep that they used to use. Yeah. Fly sweep.
So Ted, who are you on this game? We've got you can bet -2.5. Or you can take +3 and you can go over or under 46.5.
Well, I have been all over San Francisco all year. I love everything they're doing. I'm still not the biggest Kyle Shanahan guy in the world, but I love the way they've put this team together. Their defense is absolutely spectacular. It is built for this moment. This is what the whole season's for San Francisco's D. And I love Kittle and I love McCaffrey, and I'm going with Philadelphia.
You're going with Philadelphia?
Yep.
After all that,
I did that on purpose. I just want to see if you're paying attention.
You threw a weak
one of the few times I was paying attention there, Ted.
Yes, exactly. No, to me, Philadelphia is just set up for this. Obviously, the fact that they're home is that's an interesting place for Brock Purdy to go to, by the way, as well, to try and win in that building when people want to throw batteries at him with snow around it, even though it's not supposed to snow, I don't think. But anyway, it's a tough place.
It's just the home team that they throw it at.
Exactly.
Ron, what do you say there? You firing away on this?
Again, these are there's no value in these games.
Toss-up games, baby.
I said that 2 years ago, and both games went to overtime. I said I wouldn't be surprised if there was an overtime game, and there were 2. I would only look +3 if there was a 3. I would never look to lay.
There's a 3. Go bet it.
And contrary to the other side, where I thought it would be a little bit of an under game in the Kansas City-Cincinnati, I would lean over in this game.
By the way, what's the best money line I could get on Philly?
On Philly, probably like 150. Tell us.
-144. I see -144.
Okay, so now that since he's back to being a dog, I do a money line parlay, Philadelphia to Cincinnati.
And you can get +110 or 113.
Right, so it brings it down a little, and a little bit of decent value there.
Yeah,
get a home team.
But you'll get +125 later on in Cincinnati, 120.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, you think it'll go that high?
So, Chris, does that mean we have a San Francisco and a San Francisco tease on your end?
Well, I'll tell you the one thing that concerns me about Purdy is I don't like the way that he won't step up into the pocket. I think I brought it up last week. It scares me. I've seen him in several occasions. If he had just moved up, he had all kinds of open field to do either to pass it or to run it. And instead he's backing away and to the left. And he keeps doing the exact same thing. It's like an instinct, and it's just really bad.
You know, in the last 3 games, and Ron and I talked about this away from here as well, Brock Purdy has gotten away with a couple of really bad passes and bad decisions almost every single time he's gotten away with it. Now, there haven't been a lot of them, which is incredibly impressive considering, you know, Mr. Relevant here. But he's gotten away with some stuff, and we'll see if that happens against this defense.
You know what, though? I heard that exact same comment from people 5 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago.
Well, but he still keeps, and it's, you know what? You're on a roll. It's true.
I know.
But it only takes one time. And we'll see if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter.
Here's a very valuable lesson about streaks. And this applies to, and every sports bettor should understand this. If you're riding with the streak, you can only lose once.
Okay.
And these guys that sit there and try to predict when a streak is going to end, when something is going to stop happening, have already lost 5 games in a row. So when they start chirping on Monday, remember that.
Yeah.
But remember, you ride with what's happening. You don't sit there and try to be a prognosticator and figure out the stars and astrology of when something's going to flip around. You go with what's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not be too hard on Brock Purdy.
I'm not hard on him.
What I like, I mean, he's been more decisive in the pocket than most rookie quarterbacks.
Ever.
With his reads, with his throws, he's firing the ball. He's doing a lot of stuff, and a lot of that comes from his body of work at Iowa State. Being able to be the quarterback of a team in 4 bowl games or 3 bowl games. I don't know whether he played in 3 or 4, but 30 plus 40 games and stuff like that. And those games that Iowa State plays tend to be very, very close. So he's been in situations like this. He hasn't played the caliber of pass rush. No one has played the caliber of pass rush that Philadelphia has since the 84-85 Bears, like you and I talked about,
yeah,
Ted.
Exactly.
So if he looks bad, let's, again, like what you said, Chris, let's not go the I told you so route. Let's just compliment Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of when I was in flag football in middle school, and I was like by far the worst player on the team. I got to hike the ball, and everybody ridiculed me for anything I did. But we won every game, and
Must have been
being around everybody that's better than you, that's a veteran, that knows what they're doing, elevates what you're doing. And he's in a position where the coaching is elite. The players he's surrounded with are elite. When you look across the sideline, Philadelphia is the team that, are we so sure that they got all their ducks in a row? Are we sure that they're up to the task? Who's the pressure on? This is in Philadelphia. All the pressure's on them. Where's the pressure?
Well, I don't know. I think
I don't think when you get to this game, I don't even think pressure is a word to use, because they've been there. You got one team that's won 11 in a row, and the other one was undefeated for much of the season. I don't think pressure is even an issue here.
No, they have a confidence boost. Word. The way they beat New York Giants, they're in the right frame of mind. Whether they win or not, they're in the right frame of mind.
Yeah. By the way, did you guys see, or you might have seen it originally, Purdy against Jalen Hurts, the college game? The Oklahoma-Iowa State game was replayed on TV the other day. Did you see that, or did you see it originally? Ron, did you see that game?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Iowa State and Oklahoma, Hurts against Purdy.
Oh, no, I didn't see it, no. I heard it. Wasn't that like a 35-34?
42-41.
Okay. I sort of.
Yeah, and Hurts won it with a 2-point conversion at the end.
Figures.
Yeah, that was with Lincoln Riley as his coach.
Hector, the reason why I don't think it'll go under is because I think there'll be broken plays in this game. It could be sack fumble. It could be getting somebody down the seam, even though I say prevent the seam pass. Obviously, San Francisco wants to enhance the seam pass with Kittle and Debo and so on. I just think there's going to be some splash plays, either offensively or defensively, with weather that I've heard isn't bad. And that's why I kind of lean over in that game.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think that Debo is going to be more involved this week because of the factors with the other guys that, they're not 100% at all. And you'd love to get his game in there. I mean, you want the ball in a playmaker's hands like that.
I don't trust injury reports, first of all. For all I know, McCaffrey is the healthiest he's been in his entire life. I've just seen too many. Oh, he practiced. He didn't practice.
I know.
And the next time he ends up with 100 yards or 300 yards passing and stuff. So
I'm going to pose the same question I posed on the last game. You're Shanahan. You call the heads. It's heads. What are you doing?
I
take the ball.
Yeah, me too. As a road team, I want the ball.
I think if you, at all possible, you want to avoid having Purdy coming from behind, if at all possible. So I think you want to at least take a shot at getting out in front. So
I just think more importantly that I want, as a road team, especially in the playoffs, I want the ball first. I want to see if I can take the crowd a little out of the game. And even if I go on a decent drive, they are out of the game already. Then they got to rev up all over. I want the ball no matter what on the road.
12-mile-an-hour winds. That's getting borderline. You don't want to get close to 15. So
yeah, the question is, are they swirly winds in Philly, or are they just, occasional little gusts? Then, a big difference.
And let's not forget, Hurts is not completely injury-free. I mean, what happens if he gets dinged up out of the gate? I'll guarantee you he's not 100%.
No, but he looked pretty damn good.
He ran it 9 or 10 times, and then he didn't have to run in the second half because they had a big lead.
Right, exactly. No, I think he's as healthy as he needs to be. Whether or not it matters, unless he re-injures it, I think it's not even an issue.
Well, my pick's going to be San Francisco, in case you guys haven't figured it out. The more people I love how many people love Philadelphia. I'm not saying – I think any of these four teams, any of the combinations possible for the Super Bowl are possible.
Oh, absolutely.
All four teams belong here. And if anybody thinks they've got a lock side, yeah, okay. But nothing's going to surprise me. I personally believe there's a hell of a lot of value in San Francisco. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I get it. But I still like just the fact that these two games could just be similar to last year. Come right down to the wire. Maybe who has the ball last. And you know what? That's what makes the NFL so unbelievable to watch. It really is.
To answer Birdie's question here regarding how do the books allow the Bengals to be 23-2 against the spread and not adjust and just let them keep covering? What do they care? They're making money. They want their action balanced the way they want their action balanced. If they keep getting teeter-tottered over and losing, then they'll make the adjustment. But they're winning. So the public's been losing betting against Cincinnati. So that's the simplest answer to the question. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, I think a lot of people were late to the party on Cincinnati getting better during the season, and we just caught value. If you like Cincinnati and saw the writing on the wall with other teams not holding leads and Cincinnati holding every lead that they had, it was just a different story. Very impressed with the organization.
Yeah, totally. And as I mentioned it the other day on the phone, we don't have any more Vontaze Burficts over there every week wondering who's on the jail list. This is a whole new team, a whole new organization. May still have the same owner, and he's not. Look, we'll call him frugal, but separate from that, they've really turned it around and impressive. And you know what? If everybody was not on the Cincinnati bandwagon during the season, all I can say is, hey, that's because you weren't watching us.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All you had
Ted,
to do is
do you
pay
remember?
attention.
We didn't talk about this specifically, but I think you
What?
remember this during
What?
your betting heyday. They
Yes.
used to have a prop. When will the next Cincinnati player
Yes,
be arrested? And we used to
absolutely.
bet it every time.
Oh,
It was,
absolutely. And I think we won it like 90% of the time.
I mean, there was a prop actually on when the next Cincinnati player would be arrested.
Right.
And
Like in the next
it was,
week or something like,
it
right?
was just
Like
crazy. And we would win
before
every
week
single
6,
time.
right? It would be how many or how many would.
Yeah.
That's even
I'm
worse.
happy
Not
for the
would one.
organization.
No, it's
Ron, you
great.
mentioned that somebody had a question regarding hedging pending future plays. Was there an elaboration on that?
Yeah, the person I believe I have to check. Yeah, I think they had a Cincinnati San Francisco meet in the Super Bowl 16-1 ticket.
Really?
So how would you go about hedging? And I gave a couple of examples. Let me see if I could pull that up.
Well, I say you don't have to hedge. Just play my money line parlay.
Well, I've got
you got
10-1 that the 49ers win this game, and I'm ignoring that completely, and I'm betting San Francisco this game as a normal play. I don't think I'll be hedging my to win the conference. I might do it just to get my money back, but that would be about it.
And by the way, how great is the term burrowhead instead of arrowhead?
Oh boy,
that is such a beautiful thing. If he wins this game, what?
Hopefully he's like Aaron Rodgers and says, "I own them."
Well, he does. It's so far, and you know what? The fact that he's 5-0 against Mahomes and Josh Allen so far, and he's been in the league for 20 minutes. Give me a break.
Well, we did it. We moved that last 3. There's no more 3s left on San Francisco because too many people are watching this and betting it.
Oh, that's it.
That's
we
what
moved
happened.
it.
It'll
Again.
come back. It'll come
That's
back.
what we do, baby.
Racing Jason, 16-1 parlay on San Francisco, Cincinnati. And he's worried about San Francisco. That's what he said.
Okay. He's worried. Okay, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, he's depending on how much and what his numbers are and so on. I said there are a couple ways that you can hedge it. I mean, certainly you can hedge the first game. And let's see, the first game is the Philadelphia San Francisco game itself. So you could take out a money line there, or you could parlay it, something like that. I mean, you want to leave the bulk of your money if you have that conviction that way. But if you want to cover your bet by hedging, I have no problem with that at 16-1.
I want to stress one more thing here about Joe Burrow for the Joe B fan club members out there. And I've talked about this before. When Burrow I think he had just finished at LSU, or maybe it was, I think it was a week before he won the national title. And John Robinson, the old USC coach and Rams head coach, was with me at Sports USA for a long time. And he's pretty much retired now, and he's living down in Baton Rouge because that's where his wife is from.
Oh.
But he was doing stuff. Remember, he was working at LSU at that national title game. He was there like quarterback and offensive consultant, and he was on the sidelines with him that whole season. Anyway, with Orgeron. So I had him on a podcast. I think it was the week between or just before they won the national title. And I said, how good is Joe Burrow in your mind? You've been around forever. And he says, and he swears, he goes, he's the closest thing to Joe Montana I've ever seen. And that was before he won the national title and before he came to the NFL. If he's anything like Joe Montana for the next 10 years, good luck, league. This guy's special.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to add, when you're talking about hedging anything, you have to remember that the only time you really should be doing that is if that hedge or that bet in itself is a positive EV play. You don't throw in a negative EV play as a hedge just to get some money back. It really dilutes. what it dilutes the whole situation. I don't recommend that people throw in extra teams so that they can hedge that last, game in situations like that, because it's not easy to find positive EV hedges. So, obviously half the time you hedged for no reason. For me personally, I focus pretty much the only way I'm going to do something is if I can win my hedge also. So, for example, if like I have San Francisco to win the NFC conference, there's no way I'm betting Philadelphia money line. There's no way, because I can't win both. I have to tease my way out of it. I have to be creative so that I can still win all my bets. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind. Chasing hedges and is not what you really want to do. You're really costing yourself value more often than you are.
Well, let me give a little props to Ron here, since we have done hedging. I think people thought we were gardeners because we were doing so much hedging over the last couple of decades, especially early on when the future plays first started, and we were getting in the win totals, before it was a real popular thing to do. And it would always come down to the last couple of weeks, and we were in hedge mode all along and looking even just maybe a week or two before that. What if this happens? What are we going to do? So, Ron, I don't know anybody who's done it more or better than you have in that respect. And so I just want to say, hey, I got some ideas on. No, it's true.
We looked at schedules. We always looked at schedules. I still do that because I have 45 college plays and I had 15 NFL futures. We looked at what is it going to look like week 16 and week 17 in the NFL, because you have a chance. And if my metrics say I should take such and such a team and my future is on the other team, I still want to go with my metrics. I don't want to say, oh, just because I have a future, I'm not going to play the game. But I have an opportunity, if I have the right number, to win both ways. I might get +7 on a team and still win the future play. It happened once this year, but most of my futures were decided early along the way this particular time. But I'm always looking ahead at the schedule, but I'm never hedging future. The earliest I will ever hedge a future game or try to middle it or do anything is the game before last.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
In a 12-game college season, I don't even know what I have the first 10 games. And in a 17-game NFL season, the first 15, they don't matter to me.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned weeks, prior to 18-week season. I always said 16 and 17 is when you're in hedge mode, big time. It's like, okay, and depending what happens this week might, before the week games, you start to look ahead saying, okay, do I have an option to do something next week, or do I do a little bit now? Right. I mean, that came up a lot of times.
Yeah. But again, we're talking about situations where you can win both. So,
absolutely.
It's imperative in my eyes to figure out how you win both.
Russell's question that you're putting up right now. See, this is the problem. I think San Francisco does need to establish the run game as much as they possibly can. And maybe, yes, Purdy would throw under 31.5. However, the only problem with that would be if Philadelphia is good enough to, this is one of the few times that San Francisco is an underdog. They're not a big underdog, but during Purdy's 7 games, maybe somebody could look it up. Maybe I can look it up. Has Purdy been an underdog he has not been an underdog. So this is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So Purdy's been 3.5, 3.5, 6.5, 6, 14, and the 2 playoff games. So in 7 games, San Francisco has not been an underdog. So game scheme and game flow, if Philly's the favorite, you'd expect that they would stop something of San Francisco's or score a lot of points on their own. That's why you might see a number that's higher than usual on Purdy for a number of attempts.
Yeah, and how many times has San Francisco trailed in all those games that Purdy started too? Okay, and now they're on the road, and now they're on the road against the best team in the conference next to them. So,
but if Chris is right, Purdy won't throw the ball 31 times because San Francisco will dictate down and distance of their own. And that's
Right.
what we have to say. I mean, if there was a stat that said how many times Purdy would pass in the second half, I might go over and go under in the first half. Maybe they have to get more creative in the prop market.
But
Second
again,
half passing.
yeah, but if
stats.
they fall behind, that's the whole key here. Then it's going to change everything, and it's going to take some of the run game away, and then they have to mix it up with whatever amount of passes.
Yeah.
So,
No,
Well,
it's
I'm out of
interesting.
bullets. You guys have any bullets left for this week?
I can't wait to watch these damn games.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating games. If you have multiple outs, you could look at the props are going to be priced differently in various places. But this year, we're starting to see, because of all these U.S. books now, all these states with U.S. betting and 14 books in Ohio and 15 in Michigan and this and that, whatever, the prop markets are coming out earlier and they're being bet into earlier. So we lose value on game day in prop markets, unfortunately. Maybe get some last minute moves. A little bit unfortunate for the prop market, but you want to find differences because sometimes it really comes down to a half a catch or 2 yards.
Yeah, you don't have one big time prop it up for us though. That's the place everybody's going to go crazy on.
Everybody's going to go crazy. If you can find McCaffrey under 14 and a half rush attempts, it's starting to slip away. Yeah,
Okay.
I would go under 14 and a half rush attempts for McCaffrey. That's one I've done already. You're going to pay juice for the overbetters. And I've said on the show multiple times, my forte is under, not over. I still bet the overs because I can't help it. They look like value.
Right.
But I hit like 63% on unders and I hit 53% on overs, which is
like
not
no matter what, right? It's
it's not a winning proposition. Sometimes you get a misplaced line and you bet a lot of money and you win it on that, but you have to know your own strengths.
Chris, doesn't Ron have a way with words when he says it's not a winning proposition?
I know. It's a little underwhelming. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that.
It's incredible.
But if you want to take a Philly receiver over and lay 150 or more, you could take either Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. There are books that have it over 4.5 receptions. And I do think Hurts hits one or both of them more than 4.5 times.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm going to make one more comment that I saw Rufus Peabody on VSiN this morning, and he mentioned something that I had noticed a couple of years ago. And he made it public, so I might as well agree. And that is, there used to be a mass influx at all the opening Super Bowl numbers and all the Super Bowl props.
Yeah.
And I have been asked, recently over the last couple of years, oh, well, you must be going crazy. And I go, no, I'm sitting there picking my nose. And Rufus says the same thing. There's not a lot to find on the opening numbers anymore. There's too many places doing these on a weekly basis. They're quickly corrected if there are anything that's kind of out there. So what I've been doing for years and years and years is I do nothing until game day. And I let the public just run wild. And it's like a kid in a candy store because these books are getting so much action. It's so easy to get down and to bet more on stuff than you normally could. And if you're diligent, you just go book to book to book to book to book to book and repeat every 2 hours. You find a lot of things that get off kilter. And where you're particularly going to find your value, and believe it or not, and he mentioned it also, we're the book's best friends on Super Bowl Sunday, unlike most weeks of the season, because the public has taken certain things and twisted it and created so much liability that they've created so much value where sharps like us come in there and grab those numbers. It usually means laying big prices, but great value. So, my busiest days have been Super Bowl Sunday. I don't even bother except to acquaint myself with where the lines are and casually look at them and monitor them until Super Bowl Sunday when everything just goes ballistic. Have you found that to be true also, Ron?
No. And the reason is because you've been more involved in the alternative lines and all the other stuff that is a gold mine for you. We've been talking about this over the years, what you do on those Super Bowl Sunday mornings. But for me, with the player numbers, and you're not playing player props essentially, during the season and stuff like that, you have to hit those lines early. And there are strays. And my piece of advice here is when a book who doesn't normally put out 300, 400 lines, prop lines, all of a sudden gets involved in the Super Bowl, those are the ones that have mispriced lines or they don't move their lines, and they can be hit. They can be hit pretty hard. So there's kind of a beginning, middle, and end. There's a place at the beginning when you first see the odds that I'm firing away at 20 or 30 of them right away. There's a place in the middle where you can get some game flow, number of field goals, number of this, number of first downs, that those things, because you can chart the game out a little bit differently, you get a little value there. And then, like you said, Chris, on Super Bowl Sunday, you're going to get some wildly different lines because they're getting hit with higher limits than they've ever used for props before. So now they have a liability, just like you said. And so now they're moving lines, and sometimes they're just moving lines either to get action or to minimize their risk because they've already taken a hit, because they're not used to putting out all these props for all this money. So there's 3 different ways that you get involved. And I think all 3 work in kind of some sort of alignment with each other for me, beginning, right, middle, and end.
I got a couple of quick hitters before we get out of here. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their comments because they're really, really appreciated. Second of all, I want to thank Chris for saying saying the word "we" and this group of our 3 of us when he said sharps. So I guess that includes me. I have no idea, but anyway, no one's ever called me sharp before, so I'll take that. And the other thing is, as much as I lean towards Philadelphia this week, I'm sort of rooting for San Francisco. I really am. I would love to see them in the Super Bowl. I like the guys I deal with over there, and so I have no problem if they win this game from a personal standpoint. But I don't have any money on it, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm just hoping that the referees stay out of the way and we find out what a catch is and what a catch isn't. We don't have putting the quarterback down gently as a penalty, but we have, a really good game, and let the teams play it out, and whatever happens, if it's close, if it's not, I want to see the game won on the field.
Yep.
The stuff that I'm doing on Super Bowl Sunday is just it's very complicated. It's working different lines into different lines or different propositions, and it could be mixing it into regular props, and usually whatever I'm placing is like a lone wolf type wager here with a lone type wager here, and once I do it, those lines are poof gone. So it's not something that's easy to share. And it
moving targets. That's what they are. Moving targets.
Yeah, they're moving targets that you just have to be at the right place at the right time, and it's really intensive because you just constantly have to be doing all these calculations and working all these bizarre combinations together to see if they may be able to work in different ways. Putting alternate lines into alternate lines or some of these other props. And it really gets you thinking, and it's a real mind bender. And I can tell you, there's been a handful of Super Bowls where I've twiddled my thumbs. And then there's been a handful of Super Bowls where I'm calling everybody I know, hey, I need to borrow money. Hey, I need to borrow money. Hey, I need to borrow money. I'm all in the morning, and I can bet unlimited amounts because the opportunities are there. And there's been years where I can actually middle games and do middles and get paid to do it. They're free. And I automatically get paid for it, but I don't have enough money. I mean, I've got like hundreds of thousands of dollars already invested. So you actually have to chop off. Okay, well, I can't bet this because it's going to chew up all my money. and you're sitting there going, okay, what great thing can I do with the remaining funds I have available? And then other Super Bowls, you're twiddling your thumbs like, oh, that was anticlimactic, and not much came up. So you just don't know.
Arbs and middles are readily available, as Ted knows, when we've watched Super Bowl Sunday together. I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that. We have free money here, we have free money there. They're so available that day and draft day. And speaking of moving parts, I think I gave Chris 7 draft props to put out in the last draft cycle, and he put them out, but 4 of them were gone as soon as he put them out. It's just moving parts. There were only 3 usable draft props out of the 7.
Wow.
Yeah, it moves fast. All right, well, we babbled long enough.
Yeah, we got the Academy Award for the longest picture of the year, which is nice.
Oh,
the who?
Yeah, the Academy Award. It's our longest picture movie of the year.
Oh, okay.
120,
It is our
yeah.
longest video.
Yeah, by
Well,
far.
hopefully everybody was able to mine some insight or some information of value, and we appreciate everybody joining us. And we will make sure that that we return, blah, 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 and you can expect us then. And,
I can't wait for that
when
day.
we're coming back.
And Chris, you made it through the whole show. You look fantastic. I think we got you your health back.
I'm going back to bed. I'm fried.
Okay. Hang in there.
Thanks for
Yeah,
joining
guys.
us, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Enjoy Championship Sunday.